My mother used my hard-earned inheritance on no other than my stupid, steamy ex, who, by the way, my mother's using to pay for the entire wedding. This is a disaster. I met my wife Nora 6 years ago. It was my mother who introduced her to me. I was 29 back then and had just gotten out of a toxic relationship. Not just a toxic relationship, but an emotionally exhausting one. My girlfriend back then was someone I met at university, and I courted her for months before we actually got together. I was smitten with her and had poured me everything into that relationship. We dated for 3 years, and I even planned to get married to her. Well, that's what I had thought. But everything that I wished or hoped for got ruined. When one day, when I was out of town and she was alone in her apartment, I had to meet a potential client and my boss had sent me to meet him. I had no hunch of what was happening in my absence. So, what happened was that my girlfriend was alone in her apartment when she heard someone banging on the door. Scared and hesitant, she went to open it. She peeked out the door hole and saw my mother. Naively, she opened the door and Mother barged in and started to question her about me. My girlfriend tried her best to calm her, but my mother had other plans. She started to throw vases and decoration pieces on the floor, breaking the glass and shattering it all. My girlfriend was scared but tried not to panic. But my mother was there to do something, not just scare her, and she did it. She physically harmed her as she started yanking her hair and punching her. My girlfriend pushed her away and ran towards her room. She had no choice but to call the cops. My mom was taken to the police station and fined. My girlfriend's parents were so mad that even before I could arrive back, hearing the news, they broke up with me on the phone. After that, I tried calling her again, but that only resulted in me getting a restraining order and her calling it quits. I stopped calling her when I learned she got together with another man, and this way our relationship ended. I was all depressed and low for months and did not meet up with my mom. But then I forgave her as she was the only family I had, being an only child with no father whatsoever. Anyways, a month later, when things cooled down and I stopped crying about the whole incident, and the news of my breakup finally reached, my mother visited me. Talking about her, my mom had always been an emotionally distant and strict parent to me, and she had always abused me mentally and hurt me physically. The reason was because my father cheated on her when she was pregnant with me. Not only that, but he also ran away, dumping his responsibilities on her so she had to raise me all alone. And because of my uncanny resemblance with my father, she had disliked, if not hated, my entire existence. She'd always blamed me for her horrible life, and I've been the victim of her wrath and loathing my whole life. And that's one of the reasons why I moved out when I was just 17. I've worked my butt off to be where I am today. From doing minimum wage part-time jobs to now being a bank manager. I've earned it all by my hard work and perseverance. Anyways, when she heard about my breakup, she started pestering me to be in a relationship again. Just get settled as soon as possible. I refused her tons of times, but she was adamant to set me up with somebody of her choosing. Now that my choice was completely out of the picture, I had to eventually give up and give it a shot. Mom started to look for somebody suitable for me, and that's when she introduced me to Nora, the daughter of her best friend. Nora was a pretty girl and had an outgoing personality. She was loud and a confident person, far away from my type but decent enough to give it a chance. And that's how we started talking and going on dates. We didn't really click off or felt sparks like it's usually felt by meeting your person, but we were both looking for someone to get married fast. I found her mature and my mother had a good bonding with her, and she found me financially stable and settled, so somehow we both agreed on getting married. My first priority was my career, and I knew I had to settle down with somebody sooner or later, and eventually I agreed. There weren't any major changes in my life after marriage. Nora and I were acting civil towards each other, but we hardly spoke to one another. What I noticed was that she was much happier around my mom, which I didn't really mind, but her only talking to her and ignoring my whole existence did not make any sense to me. Even then, I stayed quiet, but problems started arising when Nora quit her job and simply wanted to stay at home. I had no issue until she started throwing parties, going shopping with Mom, and always dining outside. In short, wasting my money and neglecting our house. And when I actually confronted her, things got even more messy. Nora called her parents and my mother and victimized herself and made excuses for exactly her thing she was doing wrong, her behavior. As me bossing her around and ignoring her, nobody sided with me, and I had to apologize, but that just caused a drift between us. After that, I avoided her like a plague. What I had expected was her realizing her mistake and an apology, but what I got was her acting nonchalant and staying away even more. Just to add fuel to the fire, Nora moved out of a shared room and settled into a guest bedroom. We started having arguments often, and she just stopped caring. My workload was also eating me alive, so I didn't have the energy to deal with her. Though I started noticing her strange behavior and calling somebody late at night. I didn't want to accuse her of anything. I didn't confront her and decided to make sure there was actually something wrong going on, and I'm just not being paranoid. After that, I started keeping tabs on her. But even after being all alert and meticulous for a month, I did not find anything, so I dropped the issue. Nora again surprised me, though, and that happened when a few days later I could not find one of the office files. I questioned her about it. She refused to even see it and told me that she was too tired to look for it with me, and though the reason wasn't that big, it did cause a lot of tension between us. But then, my mom came over and they both talked for quite some time, about God knows what. Strangely, after that, she started caring about me and our house and started showing interest in our relationship. Her sudden change of attitude was although surprising, but I took it positively. Our relationship started getting better. I gave her a second chance to prove me wrong, but, well, she did. Things got smoother, and Nora started to help me out with housework and managing the chores. She started being nice to me and even started asking me to buy her gifts, which I complied to. But as time passed, she started demanding more and more expensive and branded items. And though they didn't leave a dent on my bank account, I was sure, if things kept going at this rate, I might be going bankrupt soon. Anyways, that did not happen since I was transferred to another country and was asked to lead the new branch there for a period of 4 years. So yes, although we were married, I would visit Nora just once a few months. And I thought we were going strong since we no longer argued and Nora would understand my situation and never complain anymore. When that long period of time finally ended, I came back. The first thing I noticed in her was her change of demeanor. She would talk to me and we'd spend time together. She started going out more and would even return late into the night. I tried to talk to her about it, but Nora dismissed it as she had a social life too, and I should respect that. I didn't try anything after that, but I started noticing whenever I would come home late, there would always be 2 whiskey glasses on the table. Well, Nora claimed it's her friends, but the musky perfume scent said otherwise. So I decided to investigate. One day, I called Nora, lying to her that I'd be coming home late. I knew I was going to see it myself, so I decided to go early and see it out. But, to my bad luck, something that I never expected happened. But maybe that bad luck was something that saved me. From the misfortune I would face in the future, and here it goes. What actually happened was that I packed up my things and drove back home early, hoping that it was all just me overthinking and nothing else. But what I didn't know was I would be met with my worst nightmare once I walked into our apartment. I remember just punching in the code, not knocking at the door as I entered, and made a beeline to our bedroom, trying to be as quiet as possible. My heart was thumping when I approached that bedroom door and opened it slowly. That's when I got the biggest shock of my life. Seeing my wife of 5 years with another man being cozy. I felt my heart being ripped out of my chest as the realization of being cheated by my lover dawned upon me. Wordlessly, I walked towards them. My blood was boiling at this point, so I could not just leave like that. I neared them, punching the man in the jaw, almost breaking it, and pushing her away harshly as she tried to stop me before walking towards the man again, and lashed onto him. I remember her screaming her lungs out as I continued to throw punches at the man who writhed around in pain. I had to stop when I felt a burning pain on the back of my neck. I registered. My wife was holding a vase, now broken as she whacked it across my head. I don't remember much as I fainted on the spot, apparently. I woke up in a hospital. I saw my mother and Nora talking to each other as she cried and Mom consoled her. Anger rushed through my vessels again. I hissed sitting up and yelled at Nora to get lost, but my mother stepped in, berating me for trying to hurt her. I felt a headache popping up hearing her nonsense, and I glared at the woman standing beside my mother as I spilled whatever she was doing behind my back, but my mom refused to believe me. She literally sided with her. Her feigning ignorance and Mom's constant unnecessary support made me lose my calm as I yelled at both of them to get out. Mother was shocked to see me behave like that, but seeing my aggravation stage, she complied, but not before throwing insults back at me and also bringing my father in. Anyways, it turned pretty ugly and I spat venom at the woman exposing her disgusting act, and then made a promise to myself to wipe her existence completely from my life. The moment I got out of the hospital and got discharged, I scheduled a meeting with my attorney and told him about the whole situation. I was asked if I wanted to drag the woman for attacking him, but we just thought of it as it's a unnecessary issue as I attacked first. So though it could prove me right, I discarded the idea and just requested them to ready the divorce papers. When my mom got to know about it, she was of course against it as I was finally cutting off her favorite girl. Mom and I had a fight where she blamed it all on me, calling me the reason for failing this marriage and yeah, of course, siding with her. But I didn't care. I knew I needed to cut the woman out of my life no matter what, so I did. Nora tried to apologize to me and talk things out, but I just refused to listen, and asked for them to carry out the divorce proceedings, and soon we did get a divorce. I could not be more relieved and tension-free, but there was something I got to know a few weeks later, and that just made me lose my temper. And that was my mom housing my ex-wife and supporting her. Despite the fact that she cheated on me, I broke contact with my mom after that, and though it was hard, I had to. But the case was not closed yet, as our relatives and friends also got to know about the divorce. I was questioned all the time about the reason for our divorce, but since I just avoided, I don't know, my side of the story was considered dead, and everybody just believed Nora. So most of my relatives just boycotted me, making me some kind of devil and victimizing her. I couldn't really blame them when my own mother was the one who started it and sided with her. Anyways, I was just so isolated and misunderstood, but even then I stood my ground, and despite the pressure from everybody, I did not falter. Only 2 months had passed when I decided to pay my mom a visit, and she never did, and the loneliness just kept eating me up. I went to our house and knocked on the door. But what I did not expect was my ex-wife opening the door instead of her. It was hard for me to control my anger as I stared at her. I pushed her away, barging in and started calling for my mom. When she came out of her bedroom and saw me, she still did not seem to care about my emotions, and she told me that she straight up had no support for whatever I had to say. and I have no say in it. So after that shocking revelation that my mother was letting my ex-wife stay with her and was still siding with her, I found it useless to talk things out with Mom. So I just stayed away from them. And, well, decided to not stay in touch with her for real. It was disheartening to witness her cruel behavior towards her own son, but it was not unexpected whatsoever since she hated me from day one probably. Anyways, what I did not know was there was still a lot of trouble waiting for me, and things were not quite done yet. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today's story comes complete with 4 updates. It took me a while to find all these postings by OP, but I found every single one. If you guys are new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day, so go ahead and smash that subscribe button. It does help support me a lot, and I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and jump into update number 1, shall we? Well, after finding out that my ex-wife was living at my mother's house and me not going there anymore, it all finally started just taking a toll on me. The past year's mental exhaustion started showing and I got sick. The 2 weeks I stayed sick with no one to care for, I realized how even my blood-related relatives and my own mother did not care a bit about me. All these thoughts affected my mental health too, but just when I thought I already got a lot on my plate, I started having problems at work too. Our company had some accusations about corruption, so an investigation was started, and during the whole time they seized our salaries, calling it a need amidst the crisis. I don't know. This whole ordeal resulted in us struggling for our bills for months. I didn't have much money to pay my bills, so I had to use my savings. But soon they all got used to, so I decided to take some money from the bank account. But the problem arose when I noticed a significant portion of my money was missing. I contacted the bank to get a history of transactions, and I've done to make sure that there was not any kind of error. The moment I got it, my eyes were ready to pop out of my sockets. Seeing it was my own mother's number from where they were transacted, and I remembered how my mom had made her tell her all the account information and even had to allow my mother to be given access. But the whole situation seemed ridiculous, since she was acting like I was nothing to her in supporting my ex-wife, and then was using money all the time. My money. I decided to send her a text respectfully, telling her not to use my money again, and I considered it as the last time to let her go, rather than confronting her, but my mom did not stop. Just 2 days later, I received an alert telling me that a big amount was transacted again from my account. I immediately called them and asked for only me to be allowed to access, and went to her house to get the money back. Thankfully, she was home, alone when I went there. I asked her she better return my money, and told her not to use my money again, which angered her, and she starts yelling at me and sobbing hard, as she mentioned her struggles when she took care of me when I was just a kid. I just rolled my eyes, reminding her that it was her responsibility since, I was a kid. Just when the words left my mouth, she stormed towards me and slapped me across the face. Wow, it absolutely shocked me. I hear her yell that she should have drowned me or abandoned me. She was getting more and more violent by each passing second, and I noticed the neighbors gathering around to watch. This only made my anxiety skyrocket, and I had to leave. Update number 2. After that unfortunate incident, I did not get to meet my mom again, and neither had the energy to. I decided to let go of the matter and start anew. I was still single and had not had anyone to help me or take care of me. My company was recovering from all the loss that it went through. I visited my company again, pleading with them to please have me work again for them. Fortunately, my boss agreed, though I was not getting my rightfully deserved pay. I was still relieved that it was something I needed, and even a little amount was more than nothing. I started working again and spending time outside rather than the depressing house. My friends noticed my lethargic state and invited me for drinks, which I obliged. My luck wasn't on my side, as I remember drinking nonstop, but then I saw a very familiar face. My ex-wife, Nora! Enjoying her time with a man. Ugh, I rolled my eyes. These kinds of people just ruin other lives and don't even feel guilty. I zeroed my eyes onto the man and noticed it was the same man I beat that day, and when I came home early. I soon left the club and took a cab home. It was unnecessary for her to marry me or cheat on me while being with another guy. That night was difficult. I cried my eyes out thinking about my mother and her behavior towards me, and what I went through, it broke my heart. The next day, when I woke up, I made a decision. I decided to move out of the crappy house with horrible memories to the house my granddad gifted me in inheritance. I decided to sell this one and use the money to start up my own business while moving into the house. So I went to my study and started rummaging through my files. I felt my anxiety doubling as I failed to find the file of the house ownership, and after 2 hours I couldn't find it. I called my attorney telling him about the whole situation. He calmed me down and told me that they will have to check the records, and that way it might be possible to get the files. But a month passed, and there was no progress until I received a call from the local police station, where I had filed a complaint for robbery, and they told me that they've arrested a suspect who tried to sell the house and got caught. My heart was thumping loudly as I just drove to the police station, but my heart dropped to my stomach, seeing my mother sitting there. Her eyes were throwing daggers at me, and I tried to make her tell me the reason for doing something like this. At the end of the day, she got a warning, and I let her go as the file was handed back to me. I told Mom that if she want to settle down the situation with me, she's allowed to come to my house, as I might be moving away soon, and this might be the one of the few last times she will ever see me. To my surprise, she agreed. But what I didn't know was that she was only going to bring more trouble. Update number 3. So, the next day I was having a peaceful breakfast in my apartment when I heard the doorbell ring. I got up and walked towards the door, opening it slowly. My mom was standing there, but with a mad face. I wasn't sure anymore if she was there to have a peaceful conversation at all. She pushed me aside and entered the home. I followed her inside immediately. She didn't waste any seconds as she asked me why I reported her to the cops. Her jaw was clenched and eyes blown wide. I frowned and told her truthfully that I was just looking for my file and had no idea it could be with her, or even had a slightest hunch that she might have stolen it. That thought did not cross my mind at all. I was still in the middle of talking and explaining the situation to her when I saw her running towards me, and she was holding a knife. She charged towards me, but thanks to my quick reflexes, I stepped aside. But this resulted in her losing her balance and falling on the table and stabbing her own torso. She let out a loud shriek as she writhed in pain. I just stood there, watching her face twist in pain and her loud screams before finally helping her stand up and drive her to the hospital. She was taken away for treatment while I waited outside. Letting out a long sigh, I called my ex-wife, informing her of the incident, so it did not take long to get to the hospital. I tried not to break her jaw with a punch as I saw her leisurely walking towards me. Before I could open my mouth to inform her what happened, she started talking. She was groaning and cursing at my mother, saying that the old woman could not even do one job right, and when I asked what do you mean, she wasted no time in bragging to me that all this time the stupid woman, her words not mine, was helping her out, and now she promised to sell your inherited property and give her the money to support her wedding. I narrowed my eyes, hearing her words as I questioned her about what she was trying to say. Well, Nora absolutely wasted no time. No time at all. Just to mock me as she started laughing that she was enjoying her time with her new man, while telling a fake pity-patty story to my mother, who would then give her money, and was even ready to sell that house and steal it for her when she got busted. I watched her laugh like a maniac, but what she did not know was me pressing the recording button on my phone the whole time. I left the hospital when the doctor told me her condition was stable. Nora was still there, probably for damage control and to feed her a new narrative, but what she did not know was that her good days were going to end soon, and I'll make sure of that. That one recording was enough to prove my whole stance true and expose her for the lies, which I did. Update number 4. Final update posted by OP. Hey guys, so just an update. I visited my lawyer and provided him with the recording. I explained the situation to him, and oh boy, he asked me a ton of questions, just to make sure that there was not any plot holes and that our statement could not be easily denied, in case they tried. With the help of him, I filed a complaint against my mom and Nora. I made sure to add all her crimes for stealing, bluffing, just to attack me, and including Nora for manipulation, and being the mastermind behind the whole ordeal. My case was too strong to be refuted, and both the woman did not have the money to hire a good lawyer, so I easily won the case. Both Nora and Mom were fined and given punishment, declaring guilty. Nora tried to contact me, asking me to take the claims back and spare her, but I turned a deaf ear to her and proceeded with the case. The day the verdict was announced, I could see color draining from their faces. However, Nora was still good at hiding her emotions, but Mother could not, since, well, she was also given a jail sentence of a year for attacking me. So when she started yelling and attacking like a madwoman, it was ordered to let her take a seat, to check if she was mentally stable, and if not, she would be staying in a rehabilitation center for the time being. Talking about Nora, I also added a claim about her trying to get my property by unfair means. So, she was fined for that too, as the recording served as good evidence. So when they both got what they deserved, I walked back home. And though my heart felt a little heavy seeing my mom ending up this way, I knew she was harmful and could potentially harm others too. So I discarded all such thoughts and decided to focus on myself. I then sold my old house, as I had always wanted, and moved into the house my grandfather gave me. It was bigger and had a nice lawn, so I'd make sure to clear my mind by doing yoga or jogging in the morning. My previous company was still struggling, so I applied for a new job and got it, fortunately, because of my good performance and experience. I again started living good, saving money while also spending on myself. Other than that, I did hear about my mom being discharged, and I even heard that Nora just disappeared and there's no trace of her anymore. Some of my relatives, well, they assume she was dead. But I'll tell you right now, that's none of my concern at all. I was living a good life without them, and, well, that's all that really mattered. So it got so bad to the point where OP basically just had to cut contact with his mother. I would not know what to do if this was my position, and while my mom was going behind my back, basically betraying me with my ex, paying for the wedding and just letting her live there, all this nonsense. But I do know there's two sides to a story, but it doesn't really matter. Let's talk about, what do you guys think about this story? How could you have handled it differently, or do you think OP handled it with every single right move? I would like to hear from you about this, so let's go ahead and spark a conversation down below. I can't wait to talk. Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you do subscribe. I have daily videos, and if you're just trying to pass some time, you never know what story we're going to talk about. I try to cover a plethora of different topics. I'm talking Karen dramas in the wild, inheritance dispute, sibling rivalry, golden goose child, you name it. I hope you guys have a fantastic one, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.